You think you know ancient Egypt. You see the great pyramids in your mind. You picture golden masks, powerful pharaohs. You imagine mummies sleeping for eternity in their hidden tombs. This is the Egypt of legends, the Egypt of grand monuments, but this is only part of the story. The real Egypt was so much stranger, so much more complex and fascinating than you can imagine. For over 4,000 years, ordinary people lived along the Nile River. Their world was filled with habits, beliefs, routines that would surprise us today. They had unique ideas about everything, from how to stay clean, to what made a good meal. To truly understand ancient Egypt, look past the giant stones, look into the homes of its people, uncover the small secrets that made up their days. What did they eat for breakfast? How did they protect themselves from bad luck? Why were animals like cats treated with such respect? The answers paint a picture of a civilization that was deeply practical, yet profoundly spiritual. Daily actions were a mix of common sense and deep faith. They saw the divine in the world around them, in the sun, in the river, and even in their own reflections. For the ancient Egyptians, being clean was not just a good habit, it was a sacred duty. They believed that purity of the body was connected to purity of the soul. This obsession with cleanliness was woven into the fabric of their daily lives, from the humblest worker to the highest priest. They washed their bodies frequently, often multiple times a day. While we might take a quick shower, an Egyptian might perform a more ritualized cleansing in the cool waters of the Nile in a garden pool, using a simple basin inside their home. Water was a gift from the gods, and using it to purify oneself was an act of respect and devotion. They did not have the soap we use today. Instead, they created a clever cleansing paste from a substance called natron, a natural salt mixture found in dried lake beds. They mixed this natron with fragrant oils to create a gritty, effective scrub. This mixture not only cleaned the skin but also helped to soften it under the harsh Egyptian sun. This practice shows their resourcefulness and their deep understanding of the natural resources around them. Cleanliness was a status symbol, a sign that you were civilized and respectable. A person with clean hands, clean feet, and fresh-smelling clothes was seen as being closer to the divine. The priests of the temples took this obsession to an entirely new level. Their role as intermediaries between humans and the gods required absolute purity. A priest might bathe in sacred waters up to 4 times a day, twice during the day and twice at night. They also shaved their entire bodies, from their heads to their toes, to ensure that no lice or other impurities could possibly contaminate the holy spaces of the temple. In the bustling homes of ancient Egypt, one creature held a uniquely special place: the cat. Cats were not merely pets, they were living embodiments of the divine. People loved them, people protected them, people worshipped them. These animals were welcomed into homes as invaluable members of the family. On a practical level, they were excellent hunters, protecting precious grain stores from mice, rats, snakes. In a society built on agriculture, this service was incredibly important. A cat could mean the difference between having enough food to last the winter and facing starvation. This practical benefit quickly elevated the cat's status far beyond that of a simple working animal. The cat's sacred status was rooted in religion. The goddess Bastet, a powerful deity of home, fertility, protection, was depicted with the head of a cat. Egyptians believed that every cat that walked the earth carried a spark of her divine essence. They saw the grace, independence, fierce maternal instincts of cats as reflections of the goddess herself. To harm a cat, even accidentally, was considered a terrible crime, often punishable by death. People went to great lengths to show their reverence, placing bowls of milk outside their doors to honor and attract these sacred animals. The purr of a cat was thought to be a blessing on the household. When a family's beloved cat died, the household would enter a period of deep mourning. It was not like losing a simple pet, it was like losing a spiritual guardian. As a sign of their grief, the family members would shave off their eyebrows. The deceased cat was then given a burial fit for a dignitary. They were often mummified, wrapped in fine linen bandages, and placed in specially decorated coffins. Archaeologists have discovered vast cat cemeteries containing thousands of mummified cats. They did not see a firm line separating animals, humans, and gods. In ancient Egypt, a cat wasn't just a pet you owned, it was a small, furry deity you were privileged to live with. Section 4. Perfume. The scent of power. In the hot, dry air of ancient Egypt, scent was everything. Perfume was not a simple luxury, it was a symbol of power, wealth, divine presence. The Egyptians were masters of fragrance. Their obsession with smelling good was legendary throughout the ancient world. They believed a beautiful scent was a sign of holiness. The gods themselves smelled sweet. Surrounding oneself with perfume was a way to become more godlike. A bottle of fine perfume was not just a cosmetic item, it was a treasure, as valuable as precious metals, jewels. The most sought-after scents marked the highest social status. Creating these perfumes was a complex, secretive art. Perfumers were highly respected artisans working with many ingredients. They extracted essences from flowers, blue lotus lily, iris. They used aromatic resins, myrrh, frankincense, often imported from faraway lands. Materials were blended with oils, fats, to capture and preserve scent. The process was slow and methodical, steeping, pressing, heating over many days. The final product, a thick, potent unguent stored in beautifully crafted jars of alabaster. Glass. Perfume was used by men. Women every single day. They rubbed it onto their skin and hair to smell pleasant and to moisturize and protect from the dry climate. At banquets and festivals, a peculiar tradition was observed. Guests were given cones of scented fat, wax to place on top of their heads, wigs. As body heat rose, the cone would slowly melt. It released a continuous stream of fragrant perfume that trickled down their face and clothing, keeping them cool and beautifully scented all night long. Beyond personal use, perfume was central to rituals and trade. Priests burned large quantities of incense, anointed statues of gods with the finest oils, believing fragrant smoke carried prayers to the heavens. Section 5. The surprising secrets of ancient beauty. The ancient Egyptians were deeply invested in their appearance, aesthetics, hygiene, magic. Both men, women, from all social classes, participated in these daily rituals. They believed that their physical appearance was a reflection of their inner health and spiritual well-being. The most iconic feature of Egyptian makeup was the dramatic black kohl they used to line their eyes. This created the classic almond-shaped eye seen in so many ancient artworks. This kohl was made from ground galena, a dark gray lead ore, mixed with oil, animal fat to create a smooth paste. This heavy eye makeup was not just for fashion. The Egyptians were practical people, and the kohl served several important purposes. They believed it had magical healing properties, could ward off the evil eye, protect from harm, malevolent spirits. On a more scientific level, the dark liner helped to reduce the harsh glare of the bright desert sun, much like sunglasses do for us today. Furthermore, modern studies have shown that the lead-based makeup had antibacterial properties. When it mixed with the moisture of the eyes, it stimulated the immune system, helping to prevent common eye infections rampant in the dusty, riverside environment. Beyond kohl, Egyptians used a wide array of cosmetics. They created a green eyeshadow by grinding up the mineral malachite, applying it to their eyelids for a vibrant splash of color. They used red ochre, a type of clay, to create a stain for their lips, cheeks, similar to modern lipstick and blush. To care for their skin, they use creams and oils made from animal fats, plant extracts to moisturize and prevent wrinkles. However, some of their beauty treatments were truly bizarre by our standards. For a rejuvenating face mask, some recipes called for the use of crocodile dung. They believed this exotic ingredient had toning and softening properties for the skin. Hair was another major focus. Many Egyptians, both male, female, shaved their heads completely, a practical way to stay cool and avoid head lice. Instead, they wore elaborate wigs made from human hair, sheep's wool, plant fibers. These wigs, styled in braids and curls, adorned with beads and jewels, signaled social standing. Section 6. A taste of the Nile. Unusual meals and habits. The diet of an average ancient Egyptian was simple and shaped by the rhythms of the Nile River. The two staples that formed the foundation of every meal were bread and beer. There were dozens of varieties of bread, from coarse, flat loaves to sweeter cakes made with dates and honey. Beer was thick, nutritious, and more like a liquid food than the alcoholic beverage we know today. It was a primary source of calories for laborers. Workers on the Great Pyramids were even paid in daily rations of bread and beer. These two items were so fundamental to life that the common greeting, bread and beer, was equivalent to wishing someone health and prosperity. Beyond these basics, their diet consisted of what the land and river provided. They ate onions, garlic, leeks, lettuce, cucumbers. Fish from the Nile were a common source of protein, often salted or dried to preserve them for later use. Meat such as beef, goat, or poultry was generally a luxury reserved for the wealthy or for special occasions and religious festivals. The Egyptians had a fondness for strong flavors. They loved garlic and onions, eating them in large quantities, both for their taste and their believed medicinal properties. They also enjoyed sweet foods, using honey, figs, dates, and pomegranates to sweeten their dishes. Some of their eating habits might seem strange to our modern palates. They enjoyed fermented foods and sour flavors. For example, a delicacy known as fasik is a fermented and salted mullet fish, still eaten in Egypt today, with origins in ancient times. The process of making bread also had an unfortunate side effect. The stones used to grind flour left tiny particles of sand and grit, making bread abrasive and wearing down teeth over a lifetime. Many mummies show evidence of extreme dental decay and abscesses as a result. Food was also deeply connected to their religious beliefs. Certain foods were taboo during specific periods. Priests were sometimes forbidden from eating fish, as certain species were tied to negative myths. When a person died, their tomb was stocked with food and drink. Paintings showed lavish banquets and bountiful harvests to sustain them forever. For the Egyptians, a meal was never just about hunger. It was about community, sustenance, and the eternal cycle of life. Section 7. Daily Magic and the Ever-Present Afterlife. Life in ancient Egypt was filled with uncertainty, disease, childbirth, wild animals, unpredictable floods. To navigate this perilous world, they did not rely on faith alone. They used magic as a practical tool in their everyday lives. Magic was not seen as something sinister or separate from religion. Protection, healing, good fortune. Small rituals and magical objects were a part of everyone's daily routine, from the farmer in his field to the pharaoh on his throne. It was a form of spiritual self-defense against the unseen forces that could bring harm. One of the most common forms of daily magic was the use of amulets, a collection of small amulets, Ainau, Ankh, Eye of Horus, Daed, worn on the body, tied into clothing, placed in the home. The Ankh, a symbol of life, was a popular choice, as was the Ujat, or Eye of Horus, believed to protect against injury and evil. Parents would tie amulets around their children's necks to ward off sickness and evil spirits. Amulets were made from clay and wood for the poor, to gold and lapis lazuli for the wealthy. Each symbol had a specific purpose, creating a personalized shield of magical protection for the wearer. Magic was also found in the written and spoken word. Egyptians believed that words held immense power. Spells and incantations were written on papyrus and placed inside the home, near doorways or windows, to block negative energy from entering. A person suffering from a scorpion sting or a fever might have a magical spell recited over them by a doctor or a family member. These spells invoke the power of a god or goddess. Even a ward against bad luck could be inscribed on pottery, then smashed to activate the spell. Ultimately, the greatest concern shaping daily life was the preparation for death and the afterlife. Death was a transition to eternal existence. People planned funerals early, saving for mummification and a proper tomb, purchasing shabtis to labor in the afterlife.